Gwyneth Paltrow just announced her retirement from the MCU. Captain Marvel haters are trying to sabotage the film before it even comes out. And Netflix canceled Jessica Jones and Daredevil. Holy f***, we've got a lot to talk about today. Stay up to date about the nerdy things that you care about. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode. What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. I'm, of course, Josh. This is, of course, The Den of Nerds, and man, we've got a lot to get to today. But before we get into any of that, I need to shout out Dan Likes Wendy's, who got the nerd card question correct in the show from Friday. Yes, indeed, Kenneth Branagh was the one that directed the first Thor movie. So shout out to you, Dan, and we will do another nerd card question at the end of this video. All right, guys, so hot off the presses, Gwyneth Paltrow retires from the MCU. In an interview with Variety, she said this. I mean, I'm a bit old to be in a suit and all that at this point, she said. I feel very lucky that I did it because I actually got talked into it. I was friends with Jon Favreau. It was such a wonderful experience making the first Iron Man and then to watch how important it has become to fans. Then when sort of pressed to see if we'll ever see Pepper again in the MCU, she said, I feel honored to be a part of something that people are so passionate about. Of course, if they say, can you come back for a day? I will always be there if they need me. So the natural question is like, what does this mean for Tony Stark? I mean, we all love Pepper and she's a great character, but I mean, let's be real. It's all about Tony. Does this mean he's gonna die? Gwyneth Paltrow has actually spoiled several things for Avengers Endgame and just the MCU in general. And it's kind of hard to take measure of like what she says and how it actually will impact the canon of the MCU. She actually said that her and Tony Stark will be having a kid at this point in their relationship. And that's like obviously not in Infinity War, so some people think that might be something that happens in Endgame. She also totally spoiled herself being in the rescue armor in Endgame on her Instagram in one of her stories. I think the most we can actually glean from this is that it's a sign that whatever happens next and however the ending comes for Tony and for Pepper, they are not going to be a major focus of the MCU moving forward. So whether it's a happy ending, they get married and they have this kid that Gwyneth was talking about, or it's a sad ending and Tony dies, or maybe Pepper dies, you know, both of them are dead. Either way, they're not going to be being a big part of the MCU moving forward. And I personally think this is just another sort of drop in the bucket of credentials for Tony Stark dying in Avengers Endgame. He's at the top of the death list. We really believe that Captain America is likely to go, and right behind him, the odds are Tony is going to be going as well. But that is totally speculation. We really know nothing from these comments that Gwyneth Paltrow made other than that she is likely not to be a focus of the MCU moving forward, and you can kind of see how that means that Tony Stark is likely to not be a big focus of the MCU as well. Now, for my own part here, when you look at the trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home, and you do see that Gwyneth Paltrow, or rather Pepper Potts, signed the check that Happy Hogan is delivering to the Parkers, I think it's further evidence that, yeah, Tony's probably gone, and although the Pepper Potts character will remain in the MCU, she's not gonna get a lot of screen time. I mean, otherwise, why would she say, yeah, I would come back for a cameo, or I could come back if they really need me for a day or something, if her character was dead? I mean, I just don't see her answering the question that way. So that's it for the first story. Just wanted to cut this off at the pass, report what was actually happening. I'm sure you'll see a lot of videos and articles talking about how this guarantees that Tony Stark is dead, the Pepper Potts is dead, this guaranteed to tragic ending. I don't think it guarantees anything other than the fact that the focus will not be on these characters moving forward. Next news. The next story is all about the unfortunate canceling of Jessica Jones and The Punisher off of Netflix. And I want to start with a shout out to Jon Bernthal. Man, this guy just is in don't give a fuck mode all the time, and I think it's awesome. He actually announced his ending, I guess, of the Frank Castle character and him not being a part of that show anymore on his Instagram. He did a little post in the morning before the show was even officially canceled. A lot of people were tipped off of this and they were like, yo, this probably means the show's canceled, but nothing official has happened yet. And then like literally minutes later, it was officially announced that Netflix will not be bringing back Jessica Jones or The Punisher for their next season. And if you're like me, you saw this coming a mile away. I mean, if they canceled Daredevil, all of the shows were likely to be canceled, but people were holding out hope. And the really sad part here is there were actors asked about this, I mean, including Jon Bernthal after the cancellation of Daredevil, and he said at the time he felt like their show was safe. And remember, the writers of Daredevil didn't even realize this. They were literally like in a meeting talking about story ideas for the 4th season of Daredevil when they got the news that Netflix had canceled them. And I think the weirdest part part of this whole story is how it went down. Everybody kind of knew this stuff was going to happen, but why would they cancel these shows before the next season of Jessica Jones even came out? Like, do they really just not care at all? I cannot imagine that this news will bring any more viewers to Jessica Jones season 3. I just see that thing kind of tanking now. But I guess Netflix doesn't care. I mean, they're done. They're pulling out of this. And there are a lot of great articles out there about this, sort of speculating about what is going on. I recently saw people talking about how the fact that Disney still received a ton of money for these shows on Netflix was part of this problem. The basic idea here is that Netflix didn't fully own this show and they didn't have full control of it. And moving forward in the streaming wars, or what's going to be happening in the next several years when it comes to entertainment, I believe Netflix just looked at it and said, let's just cut our losses here. We don't really own this stuff. Let's focus on stuff that we fully own. Now, Jeff Loeb, who is of course the head of Marvel Television, recently did come out and say he wouldn't be surprised if these characters that were on these Netflix shows were brought back in a different form over at Marvel. I mean, the guy literally said that. And so a lot of the speculation here now is like, okay, is there something going on behind the scenes with Disney and with Marvel where they're trying to get these shows back from Netflix and that's why they're being canceled so rapidly? You may hear reports like people at Marvel had no idea that Daredevil was going to be canceled. There were a lot of people that didn't know. Guys, the bottom line is this, like, Marvel's a big company, Netflix is a big company. There are likely people that did know, but there's a lot of people that didn't know. I mean, you know, this expression, in the know, doesn't apply to everybody at every company. Personally, I feel like it's a combination of things. You know, the fact that Disney is making a big play for the streaming service played a factor. The fact that these, the buzz for these shows was sort of dying down after their last seasons is a factor. The fact that these shows were not fully owned by Netflix, therefore Netflix could not A, make all of the money off of them, or B, have all of the creative control, was a big factor. And so there's this perfect storm of crazy things that are going on here, and the unfortunate reality is we lost all of the Netflix Marvel shows because of this. And I know a lot of fans are heartbroken about this because the thing about the Netflix Marvel shows was they were gritty and dark in a way that you would never see on ABC television or on the MCU silver screen. I mean, unless we do get the rated R versions of the Marvel Max versions of MCU movies, you're not gonna see this flavor with Marvel characters like probably ever again. And it sucks and it's very sad, but we're actually like about to be in a whole new crazy world when it comes to Marvel and the MCU. When you think about all of the shows that are coming to the streaming service, all of the new properties they are getting from the Fox deal, it's about to be hella crazy up in here. And I would love to see Charlie Cox and John Bernthal come back with their respective characters in the MCU. But other than that, I really don't care for a lot of those other versions of those characters. So maybe we need fresh reboot. Maybe we can bring in some of them. I don't really know, but I wanted to talk about what was going on with the cancellation. What do you guys think about this? Do you want these characters in their current versions back in the MCU? Should we start fresh? What do you think? And let me know in the comment section. Speaking of new things to the MCU, let's talk about Captain Marvel and all of the craziness surrounding this movie. Now, this is obviously Marvel's first attempt at a female-led superhero movie, and that and many other things have fans kind of split on this film. Now, I've reported about this in the past, but there is sort of a like culture war or this political thing that's just invaded all fandoms all over the internet right now, and it's a real thing, and there are people that are sort of concerned about Captain Marvel because of Brie Larson's political leanings and because of the idea of Marvel sort of picking one side over the other in this kind of political world that we live in. By the way, like when I talk about these things, I'm not saying that I personally feel this way. I'm just objectively trying to talk about where the fan base is at to keep everybody informed. So with all of that in mind, and with, you know, the microscope on this movie for Marvel, and with a lot of fans concerned, there will obviously be people out there making content sort of taking advantage of what is a hot button topic, that is Captain Marvel. And I saw a bunch of channels out there talking about the box office for Captain Marvel being drastically hurt because of decisions that Brie Larson has made and things she has said on social media. One of these things is the fact that she wants more females being at her press junkets, and she really wants to be putting diversity first and having a lot more women and a lot more women of color to be asking and interviewing her on the press tour for Captain Marvel.
Well, then everyone loses their minds.
And because of these comments she made, people were claiming out there on videos and articles that there's a massive drop in the potential box office for Captain Marvel. She shouldn't have done that. Holy crap, all of the male fans are now offended and not gonna see Captain Marvel. And guys, those videos and articles are just simply not true. I mean, like, look, I'll be real with you. Yeah, it's a big portion of people out there that are wishy-washy on this movie. That is true. But the fact that Brie said some stuff hurt the box office, that's total crap. The official box office tracking always is less accurate further away and more accurate as you get closer to the movie. In fact, a lot of these companies that do these projections, they don't even put out official numbers until they get to right about where we're at now as far as closeness to a release. And the projections look good. They're literally anywhere from $100 to $140 million on an opening box office for Captain Marvel, and it could potentially go even higher. So no, what Brie Larson said about fans is not hurting the box office of Captain Marvel. I think the box office is going to be completely fine, if not exceed expectations. Now, the second part of this story, and another just unfortunate reality that we live in, is the fact that the Rotten Tomatoes score is apparently being sabotaged already before the film even comes out by fans that are likely, again, a part of this sort of like culture war, this political thing that's going on. And the thing that really sucks about this is, like, look, if you want to not go see this movie, or you're not into Brie Larson, or you hate it when people get political in your pop culture, like, I get it, but can we let the score of the movie be reflected properly? Like, this is not the way you go about that. It's childish, it's trolly. It just makes everybody's side that engages in this look absolutely awful. We need to know how good the movie is, man. Like, let the Rotten Tomatoes score speak for itself. Don't sabotage it because you're all mad about something that Brie Larson said. I just think it's absolutely ridiculous, but it is actually happening. So I guess you should keep that in mind. Like, if you see the Rotten Tomatoes score, maybe take it with a grain of salt. Perhaps realize that, yeah, people are targeting this film in a culture war, and maybe it's better than what the reviews are saying. Ultimately, I think you should always go see these movies for yourself either way and kind of decide. Critics are not necessarily an authority on how everyone will view a movie, but yeah, it's worth it to talk about this. I think Marvel has jam-packed this movie with all sorts of flavor and stuff that any like self-respecting MCU fan would want to know about. There's the Kree, the Skrull War. There's the fact that she ties into Infinity War. She's supposed to be super strong. You got young Nick Fury. You got young Coulson. You got the beginning of S.H.I.E.L.D. and craziness, possibilities that reach out and talk about an eventual secret invasion. I mean, come on, guys. And ultimately, I really don't think that this culture war needs to come to the MCU. I mean, this is absolute craziness to me. I mean, when will we start to separate and just realize that, like, other people can have different opinions than us politically, ethically, whatever. You don't need to like take those things, hang them over someone's proverbial head, and make going to a movie and experiencing a fandom and having fun a part of a freaking culture war. I would just be personally really disappointed with this fan base if we didn't just go check out Captain Marvel and see it for ourselves. Like, if the movie's terrible, for sure, like, say that it's terrible. I highly doubt that'll be the case. And if Brie Larson was doing something like really, really in your face that was like actually attacking people, I could see you maybe boycotting or doing something like that. But to drag this culture war into this thing called the MCU, which, like, guys, it has no place here. Like, we're the most inclusive fan base. We have the biggest amount of movies, the most amount of hype. Like, this fan base is a shining star and an example of what fan bases should be. And it's just crazy to me that we're allowing even a little bit of this stuff to sort of come into the fray. Those are my thoughts on the Captain Marvel situation. It's kind of crazy. Wanted to report about it, talk about it here with you guys. And I want to talk a little bit more about Captain Marvel, what we think about this movie and Brie Larson in general. So we are doing another fan chat live today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come back to the channel, hang out, get your questions in. We'll be deep diving. I'll answer any question you got. We'll go any which way in place, and we'll try to figure out what is going on with this Captain Marvel movie, and should people be mad about this Brie Larson stuff or not. Now let's check the nerd card on the way out. I want to know, what year did Captain Marvel #1 come out from Marvel Comics? This was, of course, the Marvel character, who may or may not be in the movie. We still don't know what's going on with that Jude Law character, but the question remains, what year did Captain Marvel #1 come out from Marvel Comics? Answer that question in the comment section below. Make sure you stop by the fan chat later today, bring your questions there, and look forward to a lot of good content coming out for the rest of the week. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.